of the president's biggest supporters in the House, Congressman Mark Meadows. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be with you. Thanks so much.
We were just talking to Director Clapper about what the president calls Spygate.
Right.
You've had a lot of questions about this. We saw the Justice Department hold this extraordinary briefing with leadership on the Hill showing some classified materials. I know you weren't in those meetings, but tell me if you're satisfied.
Well, to be clear, no documents were shown. And so there was a briefing, but yet there were no documents that were shown. We're hopeful that that will happen in the coming days as long as we can protect the sources and methods that are important to all Americans. And yet at the same time, we continue to see this dragging out of a narrative, where we're not seeing documents, where we're not getting the type of transparency that really members of Congress have requested for 7 or 8 months.
What do you think the FBI did, and who do you think they
Well, I mean, what we do know is that there was indeed a confidential human source, is what the FBI would call it, that was actually giving intel, not only to the FBI, but you have to ask the question, when did it start? We do know that actually those confidential human sources were engaging prior to the official FBI investigation. So the question begs, at whose direction? What were they collecting and who were they reporting to? Because that was happening before the FBI actually opened an investigation. And so as we know that, and we know that from non-classified sources, there is no question that there was a spy that was collecting information. And the definition of that, somebody who does something in secret without the knowledge of another person.
But in legal standards, that's different in terms of how law enforcement works with informants.
Well, but an informant is someone who, if they had information on you and went to the FBI and said, listen, we have this wrongdoing, we're giving you some information, where it was not directed or where the initiation of it was not from the informant. We know that actually they initiated the contact between members of the Trump campaign, and at whose direction. And at what point do we as Americans say it is not right to spy on a campaign? Whether it's Donald Trump's or Bernie Sanders, it's not right.
Well, the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, Senator Rubio, who was on this show, said they haven't seen evidence to back up the claim that there was someone spying.
Listen, I've got non-classified stuff, Margaret, and if they want to come by my office, Senator Rubio is a dear friend. He can come by. We've got, text messages that acknowledge the existence of that.
If you had people around your campaign or in your office who were being contacted or trying to make contact with foreign powers, would you want that looked into? And
sure, but therein is another problem. If the FBI knew it was going on, why did they not do a defensive briefing? Why did they not go to the nominee and say, by the way, here is a problem. You've got somebody that you've never met, Carter Page, who had never met the president, that is having inappropriate contact with someone. We want to make you aware of it. Why was that never done? And it still to this date has never been done.
I want to ask you as well about immigration.
Sure.
We could talk all day about the other topic. The president tweeted yesterday that it's a horrible law to have parents separated from their children if they cross the border illegally. Do you agree it's horrible?
Yeah, I think it is a horrible law. It's one of those that actually I think there is real bipartisan support for changing that. Here's one of the interesting things. As we've been in these negotiations on trying to fix the immigration problem, this came out just the other day, and I said, well, I can't imagine that it's the law that you have to separate these individuals. Now, obviously, human trafficking is a big deal. How do you know that they're really the parents in a family unit? So we would have to address that. But I think conservatives and moderates, Democrats and Republicans all agree that keeping a family together is the best strategy, and it's something we need to address and will address.
Do you see this as part of other immigration reform? Because we've seen this week the GOP sort of fighting within itself over the direction to take, particularly with status.
Yeah, and we're very close on that. I can tell you.
A path to citizenship, or
and even making sure that those DACA recipients do not have to face deportation, and that ultimately they can become citizens. Now, the debate becomes over, should there be a special pathway? Should they go to the back of the line? Should they go to the front of the line? And obviously, those are things that we have to negotiate on.
Do you have an opinion on that?
I don't think that someone who comes here illegally should get to go to the front of the line. At the same time, as we deal with this, it's an emotional topic. My district is very different from some of my other moderate friends, and yet we're having real conversations within the last 48 hours hours on trying to get a resolution. The president wants
some
the
kind of status, but not citizenship.
Well, no,
right?
It's not even that. I think that even in some of the more conservative bills that have been talked about, there is the ability to become citizens. And so that's the narrative that's not really out there. And so it's important that we look at all of that. The most important thing is to secure our southern border so that we don't have to deal with this problem a decade from now, 2 decades from now. And I think we're well on our way to doing that.
Congressman, thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. We'll be back in a moment with our political panel.